ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tom Brackham, and I'm back with part 2 of Boys for Girls. This is just a continuation of my last video, which after a whopping 300 views, I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta go on with this idea. And this is, I've got like 4 points to discuss this time. And number 1 is stupidity versus lack of cause and effect reasoning. Again, talking about young guys. Commonly accepted fact is that young men will do stupid things for little or no reason at all, and I cannot argue it's true. It's absolutely true. All teens do, but with guys, it's you know, very commonly blatantly life-threatening and completely pointless. Now, why am I bringing this up if you're already aware of that, right? The reason is that people get the reason for the actions wrong. When a kid, you know, guns it to get past a train or lets a buddy throw him over a fence to go feed the cows and injures himself, it's not because he didn't know what'll happen if it fails. It's just because for whatever chemical reason, we are incapable of stopping ourselves. We have to try it. And it's not enough to stop us that we know that we might end up, you know, as a name in the obituaries. So, let's say in your book, a character needs to get past a couple of guards and all he has is a knife. But for whatever plot reason, he needs to be caught and dragged off. You don't want him to get away with this, which is pretty realistic. I mean, I don't know any way that somebody could get away with that. So, go ahead and let him attack. But don't make it because he doesn't know what'll happen if he fails. Don't make it that he thinks he's incapable of failing. That he is absolutely going to win this fight. Because it's two guys with, let's say, you know, they both got halberds. But, it's more like he attacks and says, you know, what the heck with it, I'll do it. And that's dumb. That's very dumb. But people are dumb, and young men are dumb. So, your hero can be dumb, but not dumb enough not to be able to tell that he's going to lose. I mean, I don't know why, but we do it anyway. I'm a young man, I can say so myself. I've done dumb things for absolutely no reason. Okay, number 2. Guy's reaction to a girl's flirting. Sorry about using the notes so much, but I did not memorize this. Does it happen? Yes, girls do occasionally flirt with guys. Can we tell? That depends. Can I personally? Absolutely not. I cannot tell. And somebody is like, later is like, oh man, she was totally hitting on you. And I'm like, really? Thanks for letting me know. That's awkward. But, some guys can tell and apparently enjoy it, I hear, but the fact that a girl is talking to us is cool enough for us to be interested, and you really don't have to take it over the top. Either way, it's confusing when, like, someone's acting a little weird while they're talking to you, but it's not weird enough for us to necessarily notice. When you have the love sweet talking the hero, you don't need to make it over the top or it will get creepy for a guy to read. And all of these points are just notes that as I'm reading your novel, as a guy, I'm not saying a girl will necessarily notice this, even a girl who hangs out with a lot of guys, but a guy reading it will definitely notice. Keep in mind that some guys do need to be practically slapped in the face with a rose before they realize, oh, okay, she kind of likes me. But, of course, this should be a moot point. You shouldn't be writing romance if you have never, if you're, you know, under the age of 20, even if you're probably, people under the age of 24 often screw this up. And even if you've been through 7 relationships in the last year, you consider yourself pretty well versed in how they go, you're still probably going to look back on it in 6 months and think it's absolute garbage. Point 3 is modesty, and where to begin? Okay, I'll just stick with the notes. First off, you're writing a teen boy, there are 3 facts you should know. 1, seeing a girl he knows dressed, not necessarily immodestly, but dressed up, so to speak, has a very different effect than it does in the movies. Usually it's not gawking, or like, oh my gosh, she's suddenly beautiful. If you make it so that he doesn't notice that she's beautiful, that she's a girl until she shows up in a dress, then for a guy, it's like, what an ape, what an orangutan. He absolutely has, like, that's a very primal reaction. Especially if it's like a pure-minded young man, it's usually just kind of disturbing to see someone you know all fancied up for the first time. Unless you're like really used to it, if they do it all the time. Even if they're not in a relationship, that's how it goes. I really like what J.K. Rowling did with the ball in the Goblet of Fire. I think it's in that one. If it isn't, don't kill me. Harry and Ron's reaction to seeing Hermione is very realistic. There are some things about it that are not necessarily gospel, but it's a pretty good just reading to go on. Number 2, actual revealing clothing if we're not used to seeing it on someone. I'm sorry, but that's not attractive. That's disturbing. It makes everyone in the room uncomfortable. So if you have a scene, you need a scene for whatever reason where the love is dressed up like she's going to the beach or something. Again, don't make the hero, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, because, again, that just seems like an ape thing to do. It's like, okay, sorry. Number 3 is makeup. And what's the difference? I know that some guys are blown away when a girl wears makeup and she's so beautiful and they love it. But if you're not used to seeing it on someone, the first reaction is like, whoa, and why did she do that? I don't have anything against it. Some people do look wonderful in it, but if I'm not used to, like, you know, if we've just been on a 3-month rampage through the desert, and yes, I go on those occasionally, I am going to be a little weirded out the first time I see someone, you know, wearing eyeshadow and foundation. If for some reason the girl is supposed to be hitting on the guy, then eyeshadow and foundation is wonderful. Okay, number 3, I think we're on, 4, is brothers. Okay, this is something even Hollywood messes up a lot, and it actually sours my ravioli when someone messes this up. And when people do things like shipping Sherlock and John, or Wincest, or Thor and Loki, because that is just, it's a sign that you have no idea what it's like to be brothers with someone, to have a brother that you truly love, that you've grown up with. I happen to have 2, older and younger, and it's really hard to describe. When people say, I love him like a brother, if that's not true, then, you know, it's still a nice declaration. If it is true, that's amazing, because having a brother is someone that you'd always die for, but you always want to kill. And someone you can laugh at and beat up and verbally abuse with completely no shame whatsoever. It's even different from having a sister, believe it or not. Case in point, novelists try to capture it by having a guy say to, you know, his younger brother, yeah, well, that's just because you're an idiot. And then he grins good-naturedly, and they both have a good laugh. But one half of that is wrong. And that's the part where he grins, and they both have a good-natured laugh. If my older brother tells me you're a grade B nincompoop, he doesn't smile. He doesn't have to say he doesn't mean it, because I know he doesn't mean it. Or, on the other hand, I do know that he does mean it. So, chances are he means it. But, and yet, if something happens to him, I'd probably burn down a hospital to help him. Which is weird. But, anyway. Last point is guns. Oh, guns, 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 guns. This is, I know that, you know, some hate them, some love them, some are unaffected by them. Except they're not. No one's unaffected by a gun. And I don't just mean the bullet. I mean, when you hold a gun, it's like, on some weird level, it's like holding a newborn baby, where it's just this little supernova of potential wrapped into this little package. And the first time you fire one, you understand that on a greater level. They're fun to shoot. They're just fun to hold. If you're violently opposed to them, well, blame whatever alien incursion caused the Chinese to invent it by chance while searching for the elixir of life. Now, that is an interesting little fact. But even gun control happy people can't really hold a gun and treat it like any other object. And I have heard stories, at least. I may have seen. Anyway, guys who love guns, sometimes the guns are like people, or even more like people than actual people are, because they don't argue. But anyway, I'll go into more details on the actual, you know, behavior of guns and shooting them and such on some other tutorial, because some people get that really messed up as well. But if your Chari pulls out a handgun and points it at someone, that's a huge step. It is a big decision to pull out your gun if you've seen what it does to a living being, which I have. You pull a weapon and you are prepared to kill something. Just a gun in your trunk changes how you act. Actually, some people, you can tell if they're packing by the way they're walking a certain day. I do know people who I can tell when they have a gun tucked into their waist, because they just carry themselves differently. It's the funniest thing in the world, but they do. And who knows? I don't know why. Anyway, if there's like a moment where your mentor person hands your hero a gun, like for the first time to kill something, don't downplay that. If he's a guy especially, that's a big leap of trust for the mentor to give it to him. And that's all I have to say this time. Once again, I hope these facts are not completely useless. Please do not find out my address and come kill me. I mean, you can find out my address and throw Molotov cocktails, but don't, you know, don't target me personally, otherwise you'll hurt my feelings. And right on, we're all waiting.